Hello and welcome back to my Christmas Craft Extravaganza. I am doing a different craft every day of December leading up to Christmas, and I was reminded the other day that I hadn't done any polymer clay projects for a little while, so I thought it was time I made some more polymer clay earrings for me to wear, but also so that I've got a couple to give to my family at Christmas time as well. So if you have been missing my polymer clay tutorials, here is one for you. I'm really excited about this one actually. I can't take claim for the design of this one. I've seen quite a few people do different versions of this on Instagram and Etsy and Pinterest and TikTok and all those others. So I thought I would just do my version. I am going with my pinks and red colours because I just didn't want to go greens and reds and those traditional colours. So I decided to go with the pink theme that I have been going with this Christmas. So I'm currently rolling out a light pink. This is the Primo Light Pink. I've also got at the side there white, which was just, I think that was a souffle white, could be Primo white, they're pretty much the same. I've got white gold glitter, which is that silver sparkly one. Got some black, that's going to be for my light string. And then I've got the darker red, which is souffle cabernet. And lastly, the hot pink, which is the Sculpey 3 berry. Now, I've mentioned before about Sculpey 3, not a huge fan of it, especially in the warmer weather. It gets quite sticky and tacky, but I'm really loving the colour and I have a bulk amount of it because I found stock after we closed our store. So I'm just using it up in little bits and it's just going to be decoration on top, so it won't have any structural issues. Right, so I'm just going to run my light pink through the pasta machine here, which is going to just make it nice and flat, level and even, so we can have it as our base. Looking pretty good, and I'm just going to take it down slightly because the thickest setting is about a 3mm. I'm going to go just slightly thinner because we are going to be layering. Now, it's got a little hole in it there, so we want to get rid of that. Let's just fold it and chuck it through again. I'm just trying to get the right sizing. So when we fold and put through the pasta machine, remember to always keep those folds on the sides because it's going to push the air out rather than get it trapped in, which is going to help to minimize any air bubbles that might get trapped in our piece. All right, so that's looking good. That's good. Okay, it's got a couple of bits of transfer of muck on the side there. So I always have my alcohol wipes handy. I'm just going to give the clay a really quick clean. So just going to wipe over the top. This will remove any of the clay transfer. It'll also remove, sometimes when you go through the pasta machine, you get those black lines. It'll just remove those as well. So if you've got the black lines on it, just use an alcohol wipe and it just cleans it up nicely. That's looking good. And I'll just check the back as well because we usually forget about the back, and the back is also visible. I don't want to do anything fancy on it obviously, but I just want to make sure that that's clean. My pasta machine I thought was clean, but it's had that bit of transfer, so I mustn't have cleaned it properly before. All right, so I am just going to trim down the edges anyway, just so that it's a nicer, more squared off, more aesthetically pleasing base to work on. Okay, so I now need to start preparing the other colours. Normally I would condition all my colours up and then roll them all out together. I don't know why I prepared this base piece first, but that's what I did today. If I had some baking paper on hand, I'd chuck it on some baking paper and put it to the side, but I don't, so I'll have to grab some afterwards. But I'm just going to pop it up the top of my tile here just so it's out the way. All right, so working on the black, I'm just going to condition this up I don't know how much I'm going to need. Maybe I will take that second piece as well and condition that up. When I put it all through the extruder, it's not going to matter if I've got extra, because I can just mush it all back up. But it's better to have too much than not enough. And the thing about the extruder that we're going to use is you want your clay to be as soft as possible, because otherwise it absolutely kills your hands. So I don't have a motor or anything fancy on mine. So just get your clay nice and soft. It is a really warm day here today, so that is going to definitely help, but I just want to get it nicely conditioned. And this one here is Primo Black. I wasn't sure what it was before, but it's got a little bit of shine to it. So it's definitely the Primo Black, not Souffle Black. And to be honest, I prefer to use the Primo rather than Souffle through the extruder. I just find it comes out a little bit nicer. So yeah, I'm just rolling it in my hands here, just trying to put a bit of body warmth into it as well, just to get it nice and soft so that it's not going to hurt my hands too much. Now I need to find the disc that I want to use. There's a couple here. I want to go nice and thin strings. So there's a couple of choices. I'm not sure how thin I want to go. Can't decide between these two different discs. That one's very tiny. Deciding. I think we'll go with the tiny one. Hopefully it's not going to be too thin. If it is too thin, I'll just have to put it back in and go again with the thicker one. All right, so just winding the extruder back. If you've never used an extruder before, they're honestly game changing. There is so many different things you can do with it, or with, I suppose there's so many different things you can do with strings of clay that you've extruded out of the extruder. It's a bit of fun as well, just getting it out, but it does hurt your hands if your clay's not soft enough. Right, that's not all going to fit, so I'm just going to chop some of it off. I could wind it back more, but as I said before, I don't think I'm going to need that much anyway. All right, that little disc sits on top, and then we'll just screw the cap back on, making sure it's nice and tight, and then we're just going to start winding the base. The handle, and you feel pressure straight away actually, and it's starting to come through, and that's kind of freaking me out. It looks like spiders. Oh, it's actually kind of horrible. Let's think of it as hair. It looks like hair, doesn't it? Better than spiders. It's too long for spiders now. All right, let's just get, this is definitely going to be enough. Definitely don't need the other bit. It's nice and long. We need it to be a little bit longer than the width of my clay, because we're going to string it across. All right, so we're just going to chop that. And there's still quite a bit left in it, so you can see how much left I've still got to wind. But we won't worry about that. I've just released the pressure a bit there so I can unscrew the top. Let's get those bits off. And I'm quite often asked about the cleaning of the extruder. It's actually really, really easy. So mine have all been really good for not needing a clean. So you saw me take off those scrap bits from off the top. I'm just winding up what's left. So it's that little plug of it there. And there's just a slight little bit around the edge here. There is actually a black rubber seal there as well. That's what you're actually seeing. And that's what helps to push the clay up and doesn't leave drag marks on the internal of the tube there of the extruder. So yeah, I don't actually clean my extruder. That's it, all done. Just got that main bit out and those bits from the top, and then I just pop it to the side. All right, so we've got that big clump of strings. We're going to put them to the side as well. Now they are prepared. And of course, got to give the tile a wipe and my hands, because the black does tend to transfer colour. And now I'm working with white, so we don't want to spoil the white. So I'm just going to give these a quick little condition. And then I'm also going to put these through the pasta machine. And by these, I mean the remaining colours. So the white, pink, the red and the silver. Pop it through the pasta machine just so that they're all the same thickness. And I'm probably going to go maybe slightly thinner than what the base is, because we're going to be layering. We don't want everything too chunky, otherwise it becomes heavy and it pulls on your ears. This Sculpey 3 is so soft, it barely even needs a condition. Alright, just going to speed this up now just so that way you can still see me do it, but it's just not going to take quite as long. Okay, so next up we're going to start cutting our little circles for our light bulbs. And I know I'm going to have difficulty with this. I know that the circles are probably going to stick within the cutter and I'm going to have to poke them out. But one way that I'm going to try and avoid it is I'm trying to get my clays to stick to the tile. So I'm just applying some pressure and trying to get them to stick. Now your primos will always stick better than what Sculpey will. So I don't, than Soufflé will. So I don't have high hopes for the Cabernet sticking to the tile. I think my pieces are going to get stuck constantly. But we're just going to give it a go. All right, just picking the circle size for my light bulbs, and I'm pretty sure that this one is going to work well. Now with these cutters, you can use either end. I'm going to obviously use the metal end. It's going to be sharper and it's a better size for what I'm wanting. There we go. I've got one stuck already. So I'm just going to use my little poking tool to poke it out. That's easy enough, and it might leave a slight little mark, but that's okay. All right, this one was really sticky, so I knew this would stick to the tile okay. And I just need lots and lots of little circles. So just going to cut a whole bunch out, and we'll cut more later if we need more later as well. Now, I should mention, there are ways we can also stop our circles sticking into the cutter other than just bonding to the tile. You can dip your cutter into some water and that will help. Some people say soapy water. I've never tried soapy water. I have done water before. I don't like having water down in my craft room here though, just because I don't want it to spill. Too much going on my desk. So I try and avoid the water. There is also corn flour that you can use, or any soft sort of, I don't know if baby powder works, but a really soft type of powder. You can dip your cutter in and then do it. Again, I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't like the powder going everywhere and you've got to clean your pieces afterwards. And you can also use cling film, cling wrap, Glad wrap, you know, the plastic kitchen wrap that you use. You can also use that. That works really well if you want nice rounded edges, because it kind of pulls on the film and it leaves your circles with a beautiful round edge. That possibly would have looked all right for these light bulbs, but I just decided to do it this way. So I do know that there's some other ways that we can do it to stop them getting stuck, but I'm just gonna do it on the tile and just poke out any that get stuck. Okay, so we are now pretty much ready to start stringing our lights onto our base piece of clay. But before we do, I've just grabbed some sandpaper. This one is a 60 grit sandpaper, and I'm just adding some texture to the background. So if you've seen my tutorials before, you'll know that I love a bit of texture and I love the sandpaper texture. It's a bit of a signature thing that I like to do on a lot of my pieces. It just kind of adds to it, just gives it a bit of interest. It also hides any dirt that's on the clay. Now this clay isn't too bad because this was straight out the block, but when I'm mixing colours and things, sometimes your clay gets a little bit dirty. So by doing the sandpaper effect, kind of takes away from that. Also gives it a bit of a matte finish as well, rather than the shiny finish. And I was having a little bit of trouble here getting the pattern to transfer over. I think because my base is a little bit thinner than what it normally is as well. But I'm just kind of spot doing areas that I can see that kind of need more texture than others. When I finish doing that texture effect, I always like to just release the clay from the tile. See how it's gotten quite stuck because I've done a lot of pressing. I prefer to release it now than wait until I've got my pattern on and then try and move it, just in case it distorts the pattern at all. So yeah, it's a good idea to do that now. If I had a piece of baking paper handy, which I haven't run to the kitchen yet, it would be a good idea to sit it on the baking paper as well now, because we're going to apply the pattern. So I don't need it to be stuck to the tile anymore. And a bit of baking paper also helps to maneuver it around a little bit easier than the way it is at the moment. Now, I'm not sure, I'm not going in with a plan rather on how to decorate with these stringed lights. So I'm just gonna play it by ear. I'm just gonna chuck down the strings and hope that it looks good. I'm sure it will. We're gonna cut out pieces afterwards anyway, so it actually doesn't matter how the slab looks, because we're gonna choose areas of the slab to cut out afterwards. All right, so I am just grabbing one of the little circles just to kind of check the gap that I need to leave. I want to obviously have a lot of circles on my slab. I don't want it to be too bare. So I thought if I just kind of check the spacing that I need to do, then that way I can sort of use it to my advantage. And we've got to have some twists in our lights. I mean, who doesn't get their lights all twisted? Sometimes the strings are a little bit wobbly, so I like to just give them a quick little roll to the side there as well. That's what I was just doing then. Okay, so I'm just going to work through popping down these strings, and then we can go on with the next step. And the bottom corners are looking a little bit blank, so I'm just going to add some bits on the angle here. Actually, I'm just going to try and join two little bits together just to fill that bottom gap. Okay, and just trimming off the extras as well. Now, I've been to the kitchen and grabbed myself some baking paper, so we're just going to put this on the top and just smooth down those strings. Now, the purpose of this isn't to squish the strings, it's just to give enough pressure that it bonds onto that base clay. So as we're applying, oh, I hope it didn't squish him, no, he's all right. So as we're applying our lights, the strings aren't going to move. Yep, so now it's on to fitting the lights. I'm going to try and do a little bit of a pattern and follow the pattern across, but if my colours start clashing too much, I'll just change to being random. And I didn't realise it at the time, but as I come along here, I think just there, I mucked the pattern up anyway, so I made a mistake straight up. I didn't even get two full things of the pattern through. But anyway, it doesn't matter because we're cutting the pieces out. So yeah, we can just randomly place them or go for a bit of a pattern. Okay, I'm going to add some Christmas music so it can be Christmassy whilst you watch me put this together. Right, so I'm now back with the baking paper to once again push the pieces into position. So not too much pressure because I don't want to smush and squish them, but I just want to bond them on to the base clay. I also want just enough pressure to kind of smooth out any of the little marks that I may have made transferring whilst I was transferring them onto the slab. And then comes the hardest part of all, which is cutting them out. So I'm actually really in love with this slab, and it is breaking my heart that I have to cut it up. I would have really loved to have just kept it as is. I do that sometimes. I just make and bake and keep them to the side for inspiration. But I need to make Christmas earrings, and that is what we're here for, so I need to cut it. So I decided that I wasn't going to go with traditional trees, but rather just some shapes, because I didn't want to be really Christmassy in your face. I have plenty of other Christmas trees that I am going to have on my market stall, so I need some other designs as well. So yeah, just trying to work out spacings for these to try and get the most out of the positioning, and obviously to use the most of the clay that I can. So I'm going with the arches and also these drops here as well. And as always, I will be putting the scraps to the side and using them for something later. So nothing will go to waste. I'm just going to use the flexi blade now to remove these off of the tile, and then I'm going to pop them into the oven. So they're going to need to bake for about an hour at 130 degrees Celsius. So once they are done, I will pull them out the oven, let them cool down. I'll drill them, sand them, and then we can assemble them together. Right, so we are ready now to assemble the earrings. I've got these really cool mirror acrylic toppers, which I'm going to use. I thought being pink and with my pink theme, they would look really awesome on those U-shape arch earrings. And then for the rest of them, I've got some little black ball studs. They're just nice and delicate and small and won't take away too much from the design. If I went anything too big like these pink toppers on those other ones, it just doesn't sit right. It does sit right, but it's just the proportions aren't quite right. So I'll just go with the little delicate ball tops on the others. And I'm just going to use a black jump ring as well, because I think that ties in nicely with the strings on the design. So I'm pretty much at the end of today's tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me. It was good fun to get back into some polymer clay and do some Christmas polymer. I've got another couple planned over the next 2 weeks. Got another couple more designs planned, so make sure you come back. Also in the meantime, I will be doing a different craft every day leading up to Christmas Day anyway. So I'd love for you to pop on by and see what else I get up to. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have, and I'm absolutely loving these designs. I'm definitely going to have to keep a pair of these for myself. So thanks again for joining me, and I will hopefully see you again tomorrow.